Broadcasters talk about proving radio works, but Cox Media is actually doing it. In this episode of Broadcast Dialogue, the podcast, hear how they're using Validate to track real audience response and show true radio ROI. The results? Let's just say every Canadian station should be paying attention.
Hi, I'm Lauren Kurtzman from Coleman Insights, and I have some guests with us today. We're going to talk a little bit about Coleman's new Validate audio attribution platform. With us today is Rob Babin, the president of radio at Cox Media Group, and Scott Kellum is a general sales manager with the Cox Media Group stations in Atlanta. Guys, good to see you again. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having us, Warren.
Good to see you.
So I'm going to fire a couple of questions off to both of you as users of our Validate platform. Rob, I'm going to start with you. In addition to your responsibilities at Cox, you spent the last 2 years heading the Data and Measurement Committee of the RAB Board of Directors. And under your leadership, you identified the need for radio to unite around attribution solutions. If you could, just tell us a little bit more about that. And what do you think is driving the need for radio to provide attribution data to advertisers?
All right. Well, Warren, first of all, I think what's really cool about this moment is that all the leaders in the industry are really united. Right? We all believe in this industry. We all know the effectiveness of radio. And our goal is to continue to find opportunities and data to actually demonstrate the strength of our media. Right? We know it's successful. We know it drives ROI for customers, but you've got to prove it in a modern day media landscape. That's been the big focus, is to identify the right tech and data to help us to improve the value of radio and demonstrate the ROI, and Validate seems to be doing that early on. From a performance perspective, the challenge is right now, all the other attribution tools that we've seen are all very short snapshots, right? 7 minutes or so. And that's not necessarily radio's best strength, although it operates in a very good sprint. So the exciting part of Validate is that actually we can begin to demonstrate that the consumer cycle, depending on industry and geographic areas, station formats, and so on.
You were one of the earliest proponents of Validate. What specifically about Validate made it an attractive solution for Cox Media Group?
The current attribution tools that we've seen are primarily driven for digital campaigns, right? Which is fine. And they work and they demonstrate audio strength. But what we liked about Validate was the opportunity to look at a longer cycle to understand how a campaign can impact a customer within a short duration of 7 minutes, call it, right, to 30, 60 days, to look out and understand, and even after the campaign airs, to understand how is this customer getting residual ROI from a campaign. Because we know we've got relationships with consumers, right? We know we're relational media, and we know that we're trusted and we're relevant. So,
Scott, you were kind of picked as the guinea pig within Cox Media Group.
Yeah.
Your team in Atlanta has been on the platform for roughly 3 months now. How's it going? Tell us a little bit more about the process of getting started with Validate.
Yeah, so far it's been an amazing tool for us. When we started out, there was, the typical hesitation that comes with any new software for anybody. Our team is always open to understanding what's changing in the world, what's new to radio. But the coolest thing for us about what Validate provided to us was it really puts radio in the terms of what digital advertising has done. And it's offered these tools to our consumers and our clients that says, here is a listener. Here we know the exact listener. Then their venture over to their website and to form fills to do a lot of things. And once our team saw the value that Validate brought to them and to their clients, I mean, it was like the floodgates open. All of a sudden, we're having conversations with clients about how many form fills they're getting, how many people are coming to their website, how often they're coming, how many ads it took for them to make that journey on the site. So for the client side, what Validate brings us is just like I've been telling Rob and I've been telling all of my staff, is it's open transparency with radio now. There is no questions. There is no ifs, ands, and buts to it. It's telling the client exactly the consumer journey to their website, which is something they know because they're already operating in the digital realm. As far as what it provides us at CMG and in the radio realm, is it provides us the ability to A/B test creative with solid information to tell What is causing quicker turnaround for the consumer to hear the spot and go to the website? What's causing creative-wise for the consumer to make that journey faster? But it also gives us category information. And that's a big thing for us, is to see homeowners making different moves. Lawyers, what are they seeing as a generalized category for us? We can see that information now. And that makes us more dangerous in the realm of talking to our clients, because we can say, listen, we know what stations work really well with this demographic now because we have actual attribution to the radio ads, to the clients. And it's changed the way we operate with our creative. We want to make sure that we're talking about a website if they're going to. We're telling the consumer to make that journey. And we're not just doing small targeted branding campaigns with us. We're being very targeted with our campaigns moving forward.
You have already shared with me a couple of early Validate success stories, which I've enjoyed hearing. Can you share one of your favorite ones here, even if you have to anonymize the client? Just tell us a little bit about some of the big success stories early on.
Yeah. So there's a lot of them right now. Once you get past that 60-day mark with Validate, because you're really just pulling in information at that first 60 days. Once you break through the 60 to 90-day mark, you can really start to see the information become usable for you and usable for the client. And for us, we had, the one thing that comes to my mind really quick is a business to business, a small mom and pop version of a Home Depot that came to us, had done no advertising, none whatsoever, small O&O social media stuff, but now they're really committed to a campaign. They came to us. We put together some really great campaigns for them. But in the first 60 days, that client's one of their locations, just one of them, they have 6 locations. One of them saw a jump in new business appointments in 1 week from the normal about 60 to 120 new business appointments. And what Validate told us is we had pitched them an endorsement and they went with the endorsement on it, is we are starting to see now with Validate that we're getting that consumer quicker to their website through our endorsement spots. Their branding spots are still getting good attribution to them, but now we've changed the schedule to heavier up on our endorser because we're seeing the qualitative information that Validate's providing for that client. Listen, radio is still an amazing tool. It still does an amazing job for so many clients out there. But it's nice for us to have this tool to go back to the client and say, this is how many appointments you got. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I know how many appointments you got, how many form fills you did, how many event pages we pixeled, and how many people we sat there. It's nice for us to have that power back in radio to go to that client and say, this is what we're providing you. And they go, yeah. It is. And that's awesome.
One of the other success, that success story is a great one with like new business, bringing somebody into the radio fold for the first time, putting together an array of services that you can offer to them. You've also told me about a couple of situations where you've dealt with clients who maybe were starting to question radio's role in their advertising plan, and you've been able to use Validate to kind of reinforce for them how much they're getting out of radio. Can you describe another one of those stories?
Yeah, so we had a pool and spa company that had dropped our radio stations at the beginning of the year. What a lot of it came down to was just the lack of ability to say, this is where my business is coming from. And I think in the broadcast, just in the whole broadcast industry, we struggle with that. We struggle, both TV and radio struggle with proving to a client, we know their business is up. We know the cash register is ringing. They don't know, and they don't have the ability to put their finger on the pulse of it. With this client, it was very much in that same way. They went into the year saying, hey, let's take a break. We don't know what's working. We want to pump the brakes on everything, and we're going to slowly bring things back on. The MC did a fantastic job calling the client and saying, hey, listen, it's Labor Day. You guys have always promoted. Let's not have a bad Labor Day. Let's run a quick schedule. And the client came on board for about a week and a half of a run with that. That client's attribution, first off, had an amazing Labor Day, a bigger Labor Day than they had the prior year. But the attribute we were able to give them from Validate really told us this huge story. We went back to the client with and we said, you only ran for a week and a half. And here's how many people scheduled appointments, scheduled information to trade in their pool or spa, the cold plunges. They wanted to have a great trade-in program. We could tell them how many people went to that trade-in program and said, hey, I've got this spa or this hot tub and I'm interested in this. When we went back to the client, we said, here's what we know about what we caused, what our radio station did for your website and your sales that week. All of a sudden the client comes back and go, okay, you were the first person to come to them and prove to them that what we do for them has garnered more leads, more sales, everything. And so now the client's coming back on board with us. And we couldn't be prouder of that relationship and that ability to turn that around. It would have been such a more of an uphill battle for us if we hadn't had Validate and the information it provided us.
We're fortunate that our corporate office is actually in the same building as our Atlanta radio stations. And so that one morning I was actually walking through, and one of our senior AEs was the representative on this account, and I just so happened to be walking around his office at that time, and I heard him yell out in excitement, and what's going on? And he's like, you won't believe this. I mean, he actually read the data out, on that dashboard in the moment, and it was really cool to see, again, a senior AE, someone who's been doing it at a very high level for a long time, truly pumped and excited that he actually now can actually demonstrate to his customer that yes, indeed, as it always has, now I can prove to you radio is impactful. Radio actually moved the needle, and it wasn't that the client was questioning, necessarily our impact. We've worked with this customer for a long time. It's more of, right, in current times, you have to be able to demonstrate ROI, not only through the cash register, but also demonstrate it in the actual data from campaigns. That's why Validate, we believe, is going to be exciting to work with into the future.
Scott, what do you see as your kind of next steps with Validate in Atlanta?
For us, we were excited just to get people on board, just to see what the data would give us. And, we're getting ready to go into, and we're already in the annual seasons. We really wanted to really capitalize on, what stations. We have 4 great stations in Atlanta. Which stations are providing clients what, and which ones are we missing off of? That kind of goes back to the category mix of if home improvement is such a big category in the market, what does B98 provide for that home improvement? What does River provide for that person? Are we missing with certain home improvements or whatever category it is that we can provide, and that Validate can tell us, like, listen, your cost per visit on these stations is so low. You would be, not doing the service to the client by not having B98 or the River or whatever station they're not buying. So for us to go back to a client and say, you need to add this station going into next year, and here's the proof we see in your category to do it, is astronomical. I cannot stress that enough with anybody that takes on Validate, is to make sure your event planning or your event tagging is a part of that initial start. It's just something that we have noticed. Being able to pixel and having the information on a form fill after someone ventures to their website, that's great information. I can tell you how many people went to the website. But that information that comes after someone having a form fill is so pivotal that you can tell a client sent you this many people that genuinely said, I need more information. So powerful for us.
One of the things that I've talked about with you guys and with other clients on the platform and even other groups that we're trying to bring aboard on the platform is this idea that Validate is not a tool for selling against the other radio groups in your market, that it's really a tool about just demonstrating the efficacy of radio and its ability to drive traffic to advertisers' websites. I'm just curious if that line of thinking has been in sync with your experience so far.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I mean, if you think about the billions of dollars of advertising out there, right? I mean, the multi-million dollars of revenue out in our markets, and radio is a small piece of that pie, right? We as an industry have to be out there in full force demonstrating our value to advertisers. And that's where it comes into play. This is an industry effort, right? But to have a modernized way to demonstrate that, I think is going to be critical for our industry to continue to grow and get our true value for what we deserve, really.
Is there anything else that I haven't asked you about Validate?
You have to have the commitment of the management team. You have to have the commitment of the salespeople, and you have to have structure. You can't just go into this thinking it's another CRM tool or it's a Nielsen knockoff or anything like that. You have to take it seriously because it can provide you a ton of information that can help you and help your clients really become successful. And I cannot stress enough that you have to take advantage of the Validate team to meet with your team, to answer the questions, to have an honest conversation with your staff, to say, if there's a question, now you have to ask it, because we don't want there to be any confusion going forward. And once you have that done, you can't stop the tool. It goes for you, and it does everything, practically everything for you except present it to your clients. And I can't stress that enough, that this will help every radio station that gets it. And just back on the competition side of it, I fully agree that this is something we don't see very often in our industry, in broadcast television and radio, is that we have a tool that isn't there to set one team aside from another to show that this team does better at these day parts than anybody else. Where it does come down to competition is your team using it. And that's what's going to set them apart. And we try as an industry to get our team to go out and say, you need to be the partner for your client. Validate is one of those tools that will make that MC a true partner with their clients, if they use it and they use it correctly.
Cox Media's results with Validate are turning heads, and the data doesn't lie. Want to know what your campaigns are really delivering? Learn how Validate is helping radio prove its power at validate.audio. Don't get left behind. The next success story could be yours.